This week I've been thinking about the concept of leisure or free time and how it relates to work. Typically we trade our free time for money, which we then exchange for something that brings us pleasure, such as a meal out, new clothes, a holiday. Is this unnecessarily convoluted? Can we just go straight to accessing the pleasure, or is work an intrinsic part of the deal? I'm finishing off this lean-to structure to house our solar gear and a few utilities, a washing machine and a freezer. Is this work? Pleasure? Neither? We shall see. I'm putting this first rafter in place and making sure that I've cut the angles correctly before taking it down and then using it as a template for all the other rafters. Once the rafters are all cut to size, it's just a case of spacing them correctly and then nailing them into place. You know when you fill out a landing card on a plane and it will ask you if your visit is for business or pleasure? It's like these two concepts are mutually exclusive. Pleasure is seen as an adjunct to work. It's defined purely in the absence of any work. You can see this play out in the term free time. If we are not free, then you could ask, what are we? I guess you could say wage slaves, but that's not exactly right. You could argue that we're enslaved to a system, but we aren't captured. It's more like we are captivated. It's our desire to buy things that leads us to willingly give up our time in exchange for the money that we need to get them. This bifurcation of our time is likely a modern concept. Before the Industrial Revolution, I very much doubt people looked at their days as being filled with work or pleasure. I imagine you get up, chop some wood, milk a cow, bake some bread, fix a fence, darn a sock or whatever. I don't think people would have separated these tasks into work or pleasure. They were just living. Here I am trying to hammer in a piece of wood with a clamp. Now I've switched to a hunk of wood before finally giving up and using a hammer. Your dad ever tell you, right tool for the right job? You hear people talk about a work-life balance. This is almost certainly nonsense. I've never heard anyone say that they want more work in this so-called balancing act. More likely their lives are wildly off kilter and they are desperate for some free time. Part of the problem with the system is that it's just so efficient. Talking from a purely economic standpoint, it would make way more sense for me to go out and do a job that I am a specialist in, get well paid, and then pay a builder to build this lean-to, an electrician to move the solar gear into it, and then a plumber to put the pipework in to feed the washing machine. But, and it's a big but, I like doing all this stuff. I guess there are moments when I'm outside in the heat banging nails and it isn't 100% pleasurable, but I certainly wouldn't call it work, not even close. There is so much joy to be found here, from being self-reliant to learning new skills and figuring out how things work. Kelly and I are shaping the world around us, building things exactly to our needs. For me, this is all hugely rewarding and way more pleasurable than, say, sitting on a beach. I'm terrible at relaxing anyway, and I'm not very good at sitting still. The shops had run out of the size of roof panel that I wanted, so my only option was to buy this size and then cut it down to size. To answer my original question from the start of the video, is it possible to access pleasure without having to go to work to buy the things and free time we want? For me, the answer is yes, it's entirely possible. But, of course, there's a caveat. The next morning, I just need to make a fascia board and then the roof will be completed. Oh, and that caveat. You have to find at least some of that pleasure in the tasks that are part and parcel of everyday life. And funnily enough, I've already made a video about that. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week.